of solar panel manufacturing in Rio Rancho.
Thank you, Benton. Same question to Jane.
You know, I'm probably the only one that's up here was in the administration when this was repealed. And I'm glad it was repealed because I don't think anyone has the right to just out and out take someone else's property. I understand if that person is behind on taxes or has not paid taxes, then look at it that way. But to go in and just grab up property, I have a real big problem with eminent domain. However, down in Los Lunas, we do have a pilot program that was passed out of the legislature last year that we're going to go back and look at an area. But these folks had abandoned the property. And so would I support some legislation? If it's not written properly, I probably wouldn't, because everyone has a right to own their property. No one has the right, I don't care what the project is, has the right to go in there and take someone's property. I think it should be assessed at fair market value and then give that person the opportunity to sell that property to whatever entity that wants it.
Thank you, Jane. Jason, same question.
So thank you. Property rights were one of the founding principles of our Constitution. So I agree with Representative Padril Colbert that we need to protect property rights of individuals. Now, for my Boy Scouts, why this question is important is I've heard Rio Rancho described as a land scheme. Back in the 70s, you could see newspaper ads in New York selling all these beautiful lots on Strawberry Lane. And so we have essentially huge portions of Rio Rancho that are owned by just thousands and thousands of people in these antiquated lots. And so how do you build a city when you have this patchwork quilt? And so I do agree that it was a good move by the Richards administration to strike down the current the use of eminent domain. But if we can think of something like what was being done in Los Lunas right now, that pilot, if that works, I think we should look at piloting that here in Sandoval and Rio Rancho as well.
Okay, thank you. Billy Ann?
So when we talk about this act, one of the things that I had to research it because it's something I hadn't heard of before. And when I researched it, I found that there was a lot of information about bond issues and other things of that nature. I'm an educator. I actually teach myself and I teach my students. And this is something that I wanted to educate myself on before I spoke about it. And one of the things that concerns me is not only that people's properties are ripped away from them, which is not okay, but also bond issues. What does that look like for us? What kind of a partnership can the city have with the state of New Mexico, with the legislature, to make sure that if we reenacted MRA, could it be done responsibly? Could it be done so that it doesn't impact families and small businesses? I keep going back to families and small businesses because that's what I'm concerned for. If we can reenact it and not have devastating impacts on our families, I think that developing Rio Rancho is important and we need to do that, but we need to do it carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Alexis, on the Metropolitan Redevelopment Act.
Hi, it is true the Metropolitan Redevelopment Act did help us with filling in at Cabazon and over at Loma, Colorado, and those are some really nice places. I do think we have to be wary of unbridled growth. When we have too many people coming in too fast, it really strains our city services, it strains our schools, that's for sure. They're all overcrowded right now. So we really need to be careful about things like that. And we want to be sure that if we should reenact something like that, that our landowners are properly compensated. And also we need to make sure that the taxpayers of Rio Rancho aren't footing the bill for brand new roads out where they're never going to drive, for one. I've talked to people. I talked to someone about 2 years ago when I was canvassing that had a big hole in the street in front of his house with an orange barrel. And he said, the city's going to come fix it. They're going to come fix it. Well, they never did. In fact, I canvassed that very same house and that very same orange barrel is still there. I think the people of Rio Rancho would like to see their infrastructure repaired before we start building new roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
Well, thank you. And you know, I live in the Cabazon community. But that happened before the Kelo case in Connecticut. That was a landmark decision, 5-4 decision that said it was okay, but the dissenting view of that was that they recommended each state look at it, and almost every state changed their laws like we did in 2007. And it was smart. Everybody was on board. It was a nonpartisan issue. And so property rights are very important. This was Senate Bill 393. And the person that sponsored that was current Senator Peter Wirth, who's now the leader of the Senate. And both him and House Speaker Brian Egoff now strongly support that bill, and I believe that any new attempt to try to change any of that would be dead on arrival, any bill. They actually provided a carve-out in the original bill for Rio Rancho, so on a lot-by-lot basis, you can use eminent domain if there's erosion or antiquated platting.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the county commission. So the question is for a number of years, Sandoval County has talked about Paseo del Volcan as being a highway access from 550 all the way to Interstate 40, and hopefully connecting one day to I-25 as well, creating a loop around the city. What are your thoughts around that road, and what would you do to expedite it, if so be it that the infrastructure should be completed?
Thank you. We need to have an economic corridor that connects us to I-40. The road from I-40 to Rio Rancho will bring commercial and industrial projects. Currently, 57% of the people that live in the county have to cross the river going to the east side to get to their job. If the population keeps growing on the west side, to get over those same 4 bridges and go to work, those numbers are not going to be manageable, and we'll see bigger traffic congestion than what exists now. I believe the priority should start with purchasing the last bits of right-of-way, which are at the south end of the city of Rio Rancho. Most of the other property has been acquired in Bernalillo County. And I believe that the second priority would be to get lobbyists and legislators involved, because this project is going to require federal funding. But it is a major, important part of economic development for the city and county, because it will bring more industry and commerce into the area.
Thank you. Kathleen?
So in a strange twist, I actually agree with my opponent. I was very involved with Paseo del Volcan when it was built through the city of Rio Rancho. It actually bisected my city council district. So I listened to a lot of concerns from the citizens as to what impact that road was going to have on their lives. And the engineers and the city leaders were fantastic about taking input, but it has underscored to me how important that road has become when I see cars every day traveling down PDV, as it's now formally known, to get to work. But I agree with Mr. Meek. I had an event over on in Albuquerque tonight, and it forced me to drive through rush hour traffic to get here for this event. And for those of you who do that, God bless you, because I did enough of that in Cleveland, and I don't think I could do that type of driving in rush hour again. But what it did to me was underscore the need. We need the jobs. We need the businesses. We need to bring those things to Sandoval County. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Catherine, same question.
Okay, a little different spin. There are over 1,500 miles of roads in the county today. We do not have the budgetary funds to actually maintain and repair those roads. So my concern is for those folks that see those orange cones, among other areas of issues around their roads, and travel on those roads are affecting the people who have to go to work every day. So my position is that we have to work on that, what we have, and not build something that can probably wait until the future. I know that we want to prepare for the future, but the reality is that the Sandoval County is not in a position to pay for that extension. I don't think it's the responsibility of the county at large to bear all that burden. And so I hope that we'll think carefully about next steps.
Thank you. James, Same question around that.
I'm the commissioner for District 1. When it rains, my phones ring off the hook because the roads are in such terrible condition that we're constantly trying to play catch up. Rio Rancho contributes 70% of the county budget. That leaves 30%, 15% for D5 and 15% for D1. I want to see D1 get that 15%. I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. We just paved a road up in La Madera. We had some stuff left over, so we did Overlook up in Placitas. I've got roads in Pina Blanca that we can't get school buses over. We can't get emergency vehicles over. Right now, Tunnel Springs, we have 10 homes that we cannot get emergency vehicles to. So I could care less about the roadway.
Thank you. All right, so our next question is going to go to the assessor, and Christine will get this question first. Is from that standpoint, is what skill sets and experience do you possess to bring value to the assessor's office?
First and foremost, common sense and a hard work ethic. I often say that God has been preparing me for this position my entire life, even though I also have to say, when I was a little girl, I definitely didn't dream of becoming a tax assessor. I have an accounting degree from the University of New Mexico that helps me with the over $3 million budget that I deal with in my office. I have escrow and title experience that helps me with our ownership changes and understanding complicated chains of title and real estate contracts. I have real estate experience that helps me with the appraisal department. Often I bring common sense solutions and market reality to a statutory run environment. A sliver of an HOA does not have a market value. It took me 4 years to convince my upper appraisal manager of that. Legislative experience to help fight for our property owners. Knowledge of mass appraisal and the law is imperative. And finally, I have leadership and administrative experience. I have been doing this job for the last 8 years, and experience matters.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Linda?
Hi. I'd like to say I've been in training for this job for 30 years. And when I talk about training, I'm not talking about just working in real estate. And believe me, when I was 15, I started working for a gentleman who taught me how to assess property values right here in Rio Rancho. That's where I started. I could tell you, I've also been a title director of a $3 million right-of-way project for a pipeline. I've also managed 80 employees. I've also earned my Series 6 and 63 license. I'm the current deputy treasurer, and I can tell you the reason that property taxes went down is because the hospital bond came off. Thank you. And I've been well taught by my boss, Treasurer Montoya, in legislation and how that works. And when something's broke, we need to fix it. We need to do our part to be part of the solution of things. So again, my experience, my training, it's all about managing people. It's about experience. Again, having my investment, banking, and real estate and title background has prepared me for this position and my desire to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. And hang on to the mic. We're going to go backwards on the closings, and you're going to get to go first. So on the closings, each of you has a minute for the closing, and if there's anything that we haven't talked about today that you want to bring up, by all means.
Thank you again for being here. Quite honestly, as light as I'm trying to make it, I am asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote. My name is Linda Gallegos. I am committed to being a public servant, and I want to be your county assessor. I do have the experience, I have the integrity, I have the hard work. I could thank my mom for that, 71 years old, still goes to work 3 days a week. Thank you, Mom. And I've got the support of my family, who is now grown and older. I can tell you, I spent all this time committing and volunteering previously. I'm wanting to spend that time now committing to my community to become a public servant. I've got the skill set, I've got the desire, integrity, which is so important, and the experience for this position. I'm asking for your vote. Linda Gallegos for Sandoval County Assessor, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.